some people hear the word erotic and that evokes something more risque or taboo. Other people hear the word sex or sexuality, and that's the provocative thing. So for those of you who are listening, it's like whatever your story, I want you to just kind of hold it for a moment and listen, not just with your ears, like to my words, but I also want you to listen to how your body responds when I say that eroticism really is more about life force energy. And so that means it is creativity, it's vitality, and that energy can flow into our sex. It can flow into our artistry. It can flow into creativity of any form. So it shows up in anything that we are passionate about, our activism, our professional path, all of our relationships.
This is the Joy Act, where finding joy beyond divorce begins with your understanding that the depth of your heartache shows the depth of your capacity for joy. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerour, and together we'll use accountability, alignment, communication, and trust to transform your journey. It's time to step into the Joy Act. Welcome to the Joy Act podcast, where we help accomplished women overcome heartache, rebuild confidence, and live in joy after a breakup or a divorce. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Summerour, and you know that each week we explore stories and strategies that remind you divorce is not just an ending, it's also a beginning, and there is joy beyond divorce. Now, before I go on, I want to pause for you, and I want to ask you to think about this. How connected do you feel to your sensual self? Like right now, this maybe not in this particular moment, but in your life right now, how connected do you feel to your sensual self? Because today's conversation is going to expand what you think is even possible. And I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper, because I almost guarantee you're going to hear some phrases and words that are going to be new to you. And I think you should write them down so you can look them up later. Today's guest is Darshana Avila. Darshana is an erotic wholeness guide and somatic sex educator known for her transformative work around sexuality, sensuality, and embodiment. One of my favorite words. She likes alliterations like me too. You may recognize her from Netflix's Sex, Love, and Goop, where she helped people reclaim their erotic power and deepen intimacy. Darshana guides individuals and couples to integrate pleasure, heal past wounds, and embrace erotic sovereignty. As an essential part of living fully, I really need you to get that. You will have that before this episode is over. She leads workshops and retreats worldwide and is the creator of EROS. And I'm going to let her explain to you what that is. Erotic Restoration Sovereignty Program, all grounded in her belief that our sensual and sexual selves are keys to wholeness and well-being. Darshana, it's so good to see you again. Welcome to the episode.
Thanks for wanting me to be here. I'm glad to be in conversation with you.
This is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I want to start off, Darshana, by asking you, can you share what drew you to this? How did you know that erotic wholeness, being an erotic wholeness guide, this is where you're supposed to be?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the real answer is I didn't know, but I kept saying yes. I kept following the path that was laying itself out in front of me step by step. And in particular, the concept of erotic wholeness, what I refer to my body of work as, is something that really took time to reveal itself. I started out both in terms of my personal exploration and my professional practice was very much sex and intimacy focused. Like that's what I thought I was focused on and exploring. And what kept happening over time is I realized that sex and intimacy wasn't quite a broad enough term to actually do justice and encapsulate like all that the terrain that I was guiding my clients into, the things that were coming up from them. So eroticism is a term that goes broader than sex. It includes.
I was going to ask. Yeah, I was going to ask you to help people make that differentiation between just sex and eroticism. You know, and for me, there's almost a feeling. There's a different feeling when I hear something sexual or I hear something erotic. Like for me, erotic is sexier. It's sexier. deeper,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's a wholeness to that.
Yeah, and people have different connotations and reactions to all of these words. So,
Yes,
like, some people hear the word erotic, and that evokes something more risque or taboo. Other
right.
people hear the word sex or sexuality, and that's the provocative thing. So, for those of you who are listening, it's like whatever your story. I want you to just kind of hold it for a moment and listen, not just with your ears, like to my words, but I also want you to listen to how your body responds when I say that eroticism really is more about life force energy. And so that means it is creativity, it's vitality, and that energy can flow into our sex. It can
Mhm.
flow into our artistry. It can
Yes.
flow into creativity of any form. So it shows up in anything that we are passionate about, our
Correct.
activism, our
Mhm.
professional path, all of our relationships. It's
Mhm.
present in our emotions. So eros and eroticism really lets us then take a far more holistic view of who and how we are and what
Yes.
matters to us.
Yeah, and I love that because it's going to broaden. I think it's going to broaden some listeners' perspectives on what they thought, because I think when we hear the word erotic, many people just go to sex and they're in the bedroom, and it's like this is just part of our being. So I love that you make this holistic connection to the work that you do, and I'm just excited to bring this to my audience. Honestly, many of my listeners are navigating life after divorce or a major breakup, and I know that there was a time in your life where this is part of your reality too, your experience too. So can you talk about that in terms of reclaiming your erotic self after a loss or some transformation like a divorce or a breakup?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of my story and it's part of many people who I support. So this is very, very relevant. I landed on this path, you could say, after my marriage ended. And I was, so first, the backstory is I was married very young. I got married
Okay.
at 22. And
Okay.
nobody was more surprised than me that happened, but it did. And I was married from 22 to 28, which
Okay.
is a very young, formative
Yeah.
time still in a lot of ways. And so when my marriage ended, I was on the other side of that. And what was going on in my life was a lot of spiritual awakening. I was really deeply focused at that time. I was studying in a classical yoga lineage, and that was opening up a lot of ideas and possibilities for me. But then I was also starting to date. And I was having different sexual experiences that I didn't, like, I was being introduced to all these things that I didn't know I didn't know. And so for
Mm.
me, it was very much a time of a lot of curiosity and constantly surprising myself. And I might have been at that stage younger than many of the listening now. I'm certainly younger
Yeah.
than I am now. I'm solidly in my middle years at this point. But it continues to be that I had the opportunity, not without some stumbling and fumbling, to really recognize like the gift in, wow, there is a lot that I don't know about myself and I want to
Uh,
find out. And
yeah.
many of my clients who come to see me come on the other side of a divorce, of a significant relationship change. Maybe it could be a death. It could be the kids are finally out of the house. It could be
Right.
I finally am like, I'm heading even into my retirement and now I have time and money and energy to put on me. Like a lot of
Mhm.
different things that all stack up to women who are really interested in doing it differently than they've done it and learning what they don't know about themselves. And that was really how it went for me. I thought that I was content enough in the realm of sex and intimacy inside
Uh,
of my marriage, right? Like that it seemed that way, but that's because I had no idea what I was missing.
hold up. Yeah. Oh my God. I just want to stop you there because the term content enough. And it made me think of my grandmother who used to say, you don't know what you don't know. And
Yep.
when you know better, you do better. Now, one
Yep.
of them I think I learned later was a Maya Angelou quote, but I think it's so applicable here because when you get into a marriage or a relationship where your sex life starts in your 20, whenever it starts, and you're with the same person, and where do we learn these things? right? And if you grow up with it being a taboo that you're not supposed to explore and you're not supposed to know what your body does and how to do all, and we're going to get into this later, then you don't know what you don't know. And so you
Right.
come out of your marriage at 28 thinking, okay, I was content. And then you start realizing there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
So where did you notice this is me learning to this is me really wanting to learn to this is me wanting to help other people through what I just experienced?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was over the span of several years and several relationships and a fair amount of sex, where I was like, oh, okay, like I part of me gets lit up in dynamics where we're playing with power. Part of me gets lit up in really deeply sacred, reverential, devotional qualities of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I got very curious about the intersection of sexuality and spirituality in particular, and how something that I mean, in so many ways we lack sex education. Like, I mean, that statement is not big enough to actually like convey what we are missing out on. It's not, like at best, what we are taught is reproductive anatomy and how to not get pregnant, right? Like that's what most of us receive, if anything.
Yeah,
We don't,
if you're lucky.
Right, if you're lucky. And especially of a certain age, because yes, there in certain places there have been improvements in the education that young people get, but most of us as adults now missed out on that. And so, what I also missed out on was anybody telling me that my sex life should be, pardon me, should and could. I don't use should all that often, but in this case, the should is appropriate. My sex should be rooted in pleasure, consent, a space for creativity, a place where I get to feel honored and fully expressed, and that my partners and I get to really design it our way. Instead, I, like most of you, got the script handed to me that largely the cis heteronormative is a penis goes in a vagina, boom, boom, boom. Like if you want to make a baby, great. If you don't do these things, maybe the person with the vagina has an orgasm, but that's not a guarantee. Like,
and maybe you don't even know what that is, or that's the thing for that vagina to be able to do that. You just said a couple of things that you talked about consent. You talked about basically your personal pleasure. And it made me think of a friend of mine and a young pastor that I love to follow. His name is Christian Smith. He talks about being married and divorced. And he talks about, when you are reared in certain traditions or certain churches or certain faiths, you're basically just told, don't do it, right? Don't do it. You don't do it until you get married. And he's like, okay. He said, so then you get married and you basically end up with two really ignorant people now doing something that has been so taboo and so not allowed. How are you even supposed to know? You're two ignorant people, and you're still trying to get over the guilt of I'm not supposed to even be doing this. Exactly. Okay, but now I'm married and I'm supposed to be doing it, but now I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. So this lack of education that you're talking about actually ends up causing some problems in many relationships and many marriages for people who are coming into this abstinent and ignorant. Hello, I hope you're enjoying this episode. And if you're ready to take the next step to joy after your divorce, take a look at this. You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes. But after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside, you're anything but. I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me, and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce. It's a free masterclass for accomplished women just like you who are ready to move forward. It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next, and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this free masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today. Now, back to our conversation.
Yes. And that's, I have worked with many couples at this point in time who are exactly in the scenario that you've described. And effectively, whatever our chronological age is, most of us are teenagers fumbling around in the dark when it comes to our sexuality. And we don't necessarily have any more insight, any more skillfulness, any more intentionality about it, whether we are 16 or 46, whether you are even into your 60s. I mean, I most of my clients that I support are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So we're talking about people who have lived life and in many cases had a fair amount of sex, and it's taken them until their middle years to realize, wait a second, there's got to be more to this. Something is missing here. And I applaud everyone who steps toward figuring out what that is for themselves. It's a very courageous thing to do because of what we're speaking about here. There's so much cultural baggage that we're getting through, whether that is religious conservatism, whether that is the socio-political climate, whether that is the harm that we've experienced or the pain that we felt in our own relationships, so it takes a lot to actually wake up one day or over the course of many, many days, maybe even many, many years of saying I'm going to actually lean in
and learn. I wanted to take a pause here. I'm getting feedback on your side. I don't know if there's another speaker on. It sounds like I'm getting an echo back on that side.
I'm not hearing it. If there's something you want me to do, let me know.
I don't know if is the microphone, you have 2 mics on perhaps? Is the mic on your computer?
I mean, I don't know.
If you're not hearing it, I'm going to let it go because it's pretty faint. So I don't know that it's going to be an issue for the recording. So we're going to keep it going here.
Yeah.
So I know. So in your experience, because I know you have worked with so many people, and I'm going to get to sex, love, and Goop too. In your experience, how often do you see that people confuse sex with intimacy?
Oh, constantly. Yeah. I mean, sex in a simple definition, we can talk about sex as the physical act, and we can then talk about intimacy as everything else that's going on, which is to say the way it feels emotionally, the spiritual connection, the energetics of it, the mental meaning making. And it's not physical intimacy is also a real thing, but you can have sex without being intimate, and you can have intimacy without having sex. For many of us, our aspiration, our ideal is for those things to co-arise, to have sex that feels intimate. And so what we need to do then is get to understand all of the ways that we might not actually be allowing true intimacy to come in and express through us. A lot of us have quite a bit of baggage there. And then we also have a beautiful opportunity available to us to consider what our working definition of sex is, and if that definition actually aligns with our desires, our values, our preferences, because sex gets to be a very expansive experience that each of us can define for ourselves. So this idea of, like I mentioned before, like the script that we're handed, and regardless of your background, like that script is rooted in heteronormativity, and it's rooted in misogyny. So if these phrases feel scary or they sound overly politicized or whatever, like I just want to invite you to pause. For those of us who come into this world born as girls, socialized as girls, moving in the world as women, we tend to default, and I'm not, like, there's both personal responsibility here, but this is also a cultural phenomenon that I'm speaking to, which is that we default to a lot of people pleasing and performing for another person's pleasure. We identify ourselves and are treated as the object of someone else's pleasure in service to their experience. And so this is something that is so ingrained and normalized that for many people it's effectively invisible. And so we kind of just shrug our shoulders. It's like, oh, I guess this is the way it is. Right. And I'm here to tell you, person listening to this who has the good fortune, in case this is news to you, that that's not the way it is, that your pleasure is valid and valuable, that you participating in co-creating in intimate experiences that actually light you up is very much a possibility. And
it's not just a possibility, it's a right. I mean, you can tell yourself, I have the right to be pleased in these situations.
Pleasure
it's your birthright. I love it. And part of that responsibility is you understanding what that means for you. What is pleasure to me? What feels pleasurable to me? So in your experience working with some of the women who are coming out of this relationship or divorce, what would you say are some of the sensual or sexual challenges that they are experiencing? And then I want to talk about something that I saw on the Sex Love group that just every time I've seen this section, it makes me kind of go,
oh, yeah. So the biggest thing that people come to me saying is, I don't know what I like. And I don't like it. It is that fundamental that most of us have not really taken the time and had the guidance and the encouragement to get genuinely curious about what feels good to our bodies, about how we like to be touched, about the way we want erotic energy to move through us and to come to us from another person. And it's okay to not know these things in the general sense, because the whole point is that we are deserving of guidance. We are deserving of an education. I call myself an erotic wholeness guide for a reason, because that is what I'm here to do, to be a guide so that you don't feel like you have to go this alone. However, you do have to accept the responsibility and the opportunity for your own pleasure as part of the deal. Many of us just kind of expect, like, okay, well, when I find the one, when I'm in love, they're going to just know how to do it perfectly. And I'm trying to tell you that that's not how that works, honey.
No, can we just, we're going to take a little 2-second minute pause here for people to just rewind this and replay this section again, because I don't want anybody going, Dr. Lisa had this woman on, and if she's not there, then how am I supposed to do it? Because it's your responsibility. And the beautiful thing is, it's a wonderful opportunity. I don't look at responsibility like it's negative. You get to be accountable to yourself. And I believe that is the beginning of empowering ourselves, is to go, you know what? I don't know, but gosh darn it, I want to know now.
Right.
I want to know now. And so when you're working with somebody and this is their reality. So let me tell you the Sex Love Goop thing. It's a young woman, and I can't remember if you were in this scene. She's in the mirror and she's talking about being able to look at her body in the mirror. And I get choked up saying this because I just felt for her. She said, I could look at myself and say, I am beautiful.
That was the couple. That was who I worked with.
It was so powerful, and it's often so difficult for women, especially coming out of difficult relationships, to claim their beauty and their worthiness in this way. Because if you've come out of a difficult relationship, a traumatic marriage, where this was not the norm, no one was even telling you that. So you didn't know how to tell yourself. You didn't know how to look in the mirror and appreciate all that you are. And if you were hearing negativity from your ex, then you're even further behind when it comes to this, because you're apprehensive and just almost scared of being able to look in the mirror and see anything other than what you've been told to see. I think we also, when you talk about being socialized, I think we also suffer from, you don't want to be arrogant. You don't want to be cocky. You don't want to, and so we've been taught not to be assertive because assertive is associated with being aggressive. And so to look at yourself and admire yourself is not ladylike.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I call BS on that,
Yeah,
like
100%.
I'm not negating the conditioning and the commonality of it. And I call BS on it still. And the thing here is that I don't want to assume that everybody who's listening is in a position where the thing they want is another relationship. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Whatever the circumstance is, your self-intimacy that's about you and you. So you knowing what gives you pleasure, you knowing how to give it to yourself. And then if you choose to share yourself with someone else, if you choose to share your life with someone else, feeling really confident and empowered to give them the guidance they need to pleasure you well. Like this is power. And I want to like speak a little bit about this is not only about here's how I want you to stroke me, even though that's valuable.
That's not a bad thing to know that.
It's not a bad thing, but we're talking about knowing your boundaries, how to discern, establish, and uphold healthy boundaries. We're talking about feeling confident using your voice to navigate moments of dissonance or disparity. We're talking about the clarity, the pleasure, the power that comes from knowing what a yes feels like in your body and what a no feels like, and being able to really trust that. So people come to work with me because of things that are going on in the bedroom, generally speaking. But what we're doing and what gets transformed and opened up, that's going with you into the boardroom. That's 100%. Going with you into your family relationships. That's going with you everywhere you go in life. This is fundamentally about unwinding from the patterns, the conditioning that has many of us living our lives from a highly codependent place. And actually stepping into a really deeply healthy sense of personal independence that then tees you up for healthy interdependence. I
love how clear you are, because one of my challenges in working with women was people always want to talk about, well, dating, when are you gonna, and it's like, you know what, I almost hesitated to put a bunch of stuff in my book about dating. And I said, because the first person I want you to fall in love with is you. I want you to learn. And what I love about the work that you do is it is so intricately connected to all aspects of our life. And it's the one area that we have compartmentalized to the point where it's disconnected from all of the other areas of our life. When you know what makes you feel good and know what intimacy feels like, and you know what these things are because you have learned about yourself, your body, your inner workings, how you think. I watched you do an exercise. Actually, you talked about this exercise where just using your voice. And it was your morning routine, and you're getting up and you're saying, even learning to make sounds out loud, to moan or talk or groan or hum or sing, whatever the sounds are that you might make, learning to do that when you're by yourself, how that helps you when you're with someone else. And just that one exercise, I could see freeing somebody up, that if I can do this here, I can do it at work. I can speak of it. Like, you learn that you have a voice, and you learn how powerful that voice is.
And you have a voice, like I imagine the vast majority of people listening to this actually have the power of speech. Like for those who might be differently abled, I'm going to trust that you have your forms of communication, but we have our voices to use. It is quite frankly a waste of what the divinity has imbued us with to not
use it.
To not learn how to speak truth to our experience, to the things that we value. And again, I want to bring this back to the wider definition of eroticism, that it is about sexuality, sensuality, intimate relating, but it's also activism. It's also creativity and artistry and the things that we feel passionate about, that are sources of inspiration, what we care about in this world. And so the skills that I help people build and the conditioning that I help people unravel so that they can replace with a really renewed, refreshed, aligned way of living. Like this is whole life transformation, hence erotic wholeness. Because it's not just about sex.
It's not just about sex. You also teach that pleasure has a profound relationship to healing. Can you talk a little bit about how experiencing pleasure can actually help heal emotional wounds, grief, self-judgment, all those things that people might experience after a breakup?
Yeah. I mean, one of the most common experiences, and I mean, this happened yesterday with a woman who was on my table, and it was, we've been working together for several months, and she has been entirely shut down around her sexuality, had a history of abuse in her younger years, and really just totally felt disconnected from experiencing any kind of sexual pleasure in her life. And so we've progressed to the point where in yesterday's session, I was facilitating whole body work, which is to say, like, my flavor of hands-on, hands-in, fully erotic expression. And we used pleasure as the vehicle, if you will, for her to relax into her body, to open up to sensation and sensitivity. And as her arousal was mounting and mounting and mounting, and we had spoken about this previously so that it wouldn't come as a surprise, I'd let her know, like, look, it's a fairly common thing for that moment of ecstasy to also bring with it some waves of really deep grief. Or like this is a very common phenomenon. So she wasn't totally surprised when she went from like, all the like gasping to like
crying,
sobbing from this deep, deep, deep place. But it was a cry that needed to happen. These were tears that have been buried under for such a long time that she did not previously feel safe enough to release. So that's one example of how pleasure actually can be a very powerful way of bringing to the surface some of the harder feelings that we have not been allowing ourselves. And you want to feel more of anything, you got to feel more of everything is the way that this works. So if what you want ultimately is to live a life with more pleasure, with more aliveness, with more joy, then you're going to have to make space and peace with the opposite experiences. Confronting your pain, cultivating intimacy with your grief, holding space for the unrequited longing, for the frustration, the disappointment, not because I want you to get stuck in that. It's that I want you to actually not be beholden to it and bogged down by it. So pleasure is a really powerful way of kind of slipping in the back door, as it were, because our defenses are like, pleasure. This is
and all of your and your senses, everything is heightened. So it's almost like they're all there bubbling together, and they have some place to be released. So on that same note, I know that a lot of women, there is shame and guilt around, whether it's culture or tradition or just devaluing their sensuality. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with them to release some of these internalized beliefs that they might have around this? And I think you may have just kind of opened the door on what that looks like.
Well, what we're fundamentally doing is, in the space that I facilitate, we're creating a whole new set of experiences to replace the ones that you've had. So if all you've known is feeling really shy or really shamed about your body, and then you get to come into a space where we celebrate you and you have permission for your full expression, that's actually giving you an imprint of something totally different than what you've been living with. And when we that's often what we need. Like, that is how we learn. We need that touch point of somebody affirming us, and I can give credit to, you just disappeared.
Oh, I'm still here. I just put you on center stage.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was so caught up listening to you that I didn't even think to do it earlier. I was like, I want her just on the screen right now by herself.
Okay. So you know, in the same way that we learn anything, we hear language spoken. That's how we learn our first language. Somebody tells us that we're beautiful, we take that on. Someone tells us that the way that we are is inappropriate, we take that on. Like this is how learning happens. So we get to create a space where we're working to unravel those threads of negative programming and program in positive self-talk and positive and affirming lived experiences. And the working theory here is that if you can have those experiences here with me, you can then also go out elsewhere into your life and replicate or have more of those on your own terms. So it really is just creating the opportunity for some really beautifully affirming life to come through you and change the paradigm.
I knew I was going to love this. Okay. So I'm thinking about the woman who has come through all of this and she's hearing this. And it's this idea of, okay, me exploring my own sensuality, intimacy, my eroticism, growing in that part of my life. How we've said a little bit about it. How is that going to help her moving into another relationship? And what is something that she could start working on now to open that door for herself? Like, is there an exercise, a thought process? What can she start doing?
Yeah. So as to the how it's going to help, what I can tell you is this. Generally speaking, most of us would like to be in partnership with somebody who knows themselves, who actually is able to show up and contribute in meaningful, equitable ways to our partnerships. You probably want that. So it stands 100%. To reason. It stands to reason that the person that you want to date wants the same thing too. And so when we actually come into a relationship with a healthy sense of ourselves, what we like, what we don't like, first of all, it makes the selection process a lot easier. You're not going to waste time with people who do not align and meet you where you want to be met. Also, you're going to get more of what you want because when you ask for it, you know, the saying, what is it? Like something,
you have not because you ask not.
Exactly. So if I'm just like an example, if I really want my partner to bring like passion and intensity to me, like that is something that I crave and I love, but I'm walking around just like being all meek and quiet and just, maybe it'll happen. Like, what do we think our partner's going to do with it? Like they're going to probably look at the way I'm behaving and think, oh, that would be too much to bring to her.
Yeah, so right. I'm going to give her more of what I'm seeing from her because the passion is going to throw her for a loop.
Right. So when we're then able to have meaningful conversations, we're able to be an integrally responsible part of creating the culture of our relationships. Because all relationships have a culture. All of our relationships have a vibe, have norms, and we can accept what we've been given in the past because you asked like what would be different. Well, if you show up to your next relationship the exact same way you showed up in your previous one, maybe just a little more beaten and metaphorically, I hope, like down and downtrodden, what do you expect to get differently? Right. But if you actually do the work of investing in your self-intimacy, really getting to know what's important to you, feeling confident in communicating that, you then get to create a relationship that meets you and where you shine as your very best version of self and hopefully get the best from your partner too. And again, isn't that what we want? Like, I don't think that's straight stuff.
No, you're speaking good sense. It's almost ironic that in every one of the aspects of whether it's your erotic or sensuality or your sex life or your business life or your family, or we bring the same thing to it. And if you want something different and you keep showing up the same and you expect to have something different, that's a little loopy.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen.
Common denominator.
Yes.
You are the common denominator
on all realms. Because I tell people, negative folks want to say, oh, well, these relationships aren't working. You're the common denominator. I'm like, guess what? You're the common denominator in your entire life. That includes the good stuff that happens. So be the common denominator that is ushering in the things that benefit you and please you so that you aren't looking for something from somebody that doesn't have that thing to give.
Precisely. And there's also, there's a phrase that definitely applies to dating. When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Believe them. I think that's another Maya Angelou thing. Yeah.
Many of us, the conditioning as women is to slip into this kind of wishful thinking, this fantastical thinking of like, well, I see the best in them and I'm going to be the one to draw that out.
I'm gonna
No,
love him so much. She's gonna
let's
open up. It's like, no, this is
be grown up.
this is it.
Let's be grown-ups.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not reading a fantasy fairy tale. Like, let's be grown-ups and actually then feel just as lit up by the clarity of like, oh wow, they're showing me that they're not able to meet me. I know what my baseline is. I know
Yes.
what I need. I know what I'm bringing to the table. If they're not a match for me, I get to say, thank you, life,
Thank
for
you.
showing me that clearly. All the
Oh,
best to you. And the thing is, many of us waste a lot of time hanging around to see if just maybe one day, kind of, sorta.
I'm raising my hand because I have definitely been there. I think if you're over 25 and you've dated twice, you've probably been there. But it definitely at my age, at our age, I've been there. And
Totally.
yes,
So
it applies
when
everywhere. It's you don't have to say, well, as long as they have this and this and this and this area isn't important. No, you being satisfied about you being a whole person, you have, like you said, it's our birthright. I tell people joy is your birthright. It's your
and it
birthright.
is.
But you need to know what brings you joy.
Yes.
And if your expectation is there's a white horse out there with some person on it who's going to come, what I have my little bullshiggity thing here. Bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Ringing bells for you. It's not going to happen. You can't ask for something until you know what it is. And many of us have not taken the time to figure out what it is that we want, what we need, what we desire to even be able to ask for it. And what I love about what you teach and the gift that you give people is the way you just described that. It is okay to recognize that you're with someone who doesn't have the things that you want.
100%.
And instead of looking at it like, oh gosh, this is terrible. How many of these do I have to go through? How many frogs do I have to? No, thank the world, your God, the universe, whoever it is you pray to, for, with, thank all of that. And then be mature enough to go, you know what? You're a great person. It's just that right now I know what I want and this is not going to work for me. So I wish you well.
Mhm.
I wish you well and move on, because what happens is we think we're going to love this person into doing something or being something that they aren't. And we have an unrealistic expectation that they can't meet. So we create a lose-lose situation and nobody's happy, because I don't think most people are happy knowing they can't please the person they're with and the person still wants to be with them.
Right. I don't have anything else to add to that. That's a perfect encapsulation.
Can you give some folks listening, what is something that they could do? What is this is sort of like a Darshana exercise from the internet.
Yeah. Okay, you ready for it? So many people, part of like one of the roadblocks that we're getting over is this idea that, but I don't know what I want. And let's start by disproving that right here and right now. So wherever you are, I mean, maybe unless you're behind the wheel of a moving vehicle, but wherever you are right now, you can let your gaze travel around your environment and just look around slowly. And I want you to choose to put your focus on something that sparks your curiosity or your joy, since we're here for the joy act, right? So I'm looking at a painting over here. Like, I'm looking at a piece of art that, of all the things that I just scanned, I'm like, oh, I love the colors. I love the symbolism. I love this artist. I have several of her pieces. Like, it has a lot of positive association for me. So in just an instant, I used my senses to land on the clarity of like, oh, this attracts me. So the exercise is this: any of your senses, you can do a quick little inventory. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What do I taste? What do I feel in my body? Whether it's something that is happening presently, or you want to just imagine this in a more general sense. Every single one of us, those 5 questions right there, like, You can answer those super quickly. What is a texture that I enjoy against my skin? Give me a cashmere sweater, baby. I'm delighted. What is a smell that when it hits me, I love it. Like I have this particular candle, and I'm kidding you not, it is called Somebody's Fine Ass Daddy. That is the name of the candle fragrance.
You know what the scent is that gets you? Because for me, it's vanilla.
Okay, like it might have some vanilla in it, actually. It's this like deliciously like musky smell that smells like me. And when I smell that candle, I'm like, game on. Like, I am a music person, and so from the standpoint of sound, I have different playlists for different times of day and different vibes because I love to fill my ears. So where we're going with this is I want you to get out from under the idea that you don't know what you like, because you have ample evidence. If you just use these 5 senses that you have been imbued with and do a simple little inventory for yourself, like I said, it could be something that is immediate, so that it's going on in the present moment, or you can think in a more general sense. But I just want you to walk yourself through sight, sound, taste, touch, and what did I miss there? Smell.
Yeah.
Like, walk yourself through those 5 senses and identify something that gives you pleasure for each one.
Okay, so folks, I'm just going to be really honest. I knew I was going to ask Darshana this question, and part of me was like, oh gosh, I have no idea where she's going to go. She's going to have people doing things at home. They're to be like, oh my gosh, she really wants me to do that. And it's funny, you just took a grounding exercise and used it as a baseline for people it dispels any more, I don't know what I like.
Yeah.
And for most people, they're not going to see the connection to sensual, sexual, anything. But the bottom line is you have to start somewhere.
You do.
And if you can start there.
It's not a big leap from that to sensual, sexual, everything. Because what is our sex if not a highly sensual experience?
Okay. Has anyone ever, there's a, and I don't remember who the doctor is. They talk about women can pick a mate by their smell. And there's a company that actually, the man wears a t-shirt and they let the woman smell the t-shirts, and that's how she picks the guy. So look, folks, it's all connected.
And that's real. There's that's a scientifically based phenomenon rooted in procreate, like what is optimal conditions for procreation.
100%.
Pheromones, like these smells that attract us. There's a reason why you smell somebody's BO and it could drive you up a wall and you're like, get me away from that. Right. Or you could be like, oh my God, that's my person.
I am just gonna tell on myself today. I got in a Uber. This is years ago. I got in an Uber, and the body, I'm going to say odor, but usually when we say odor, we think it's negative. But the body smell that this man was giving off, it was very strong. And I remember sitting in the back seat thinking, if I stay in this car too long, I'm going to fall in love with this driver. Like it was the most real connection for me of how powerful someone said. And I've never been a big perfume cologne person. Like I almost prefer men not to really wear a lot because I want to
smell you.
I want to smell you. But that for me was like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing. Because
and it is that someone's smell, the sound of their voice, that kind of 6th sense that I haven't named yet, but that like ineffable, like and this is, I mean, we could have a whole nother podcast episode about what I'm about to say probably, which is that the way we feel energetically in that kind of 6th sense way in proximity to another person. Like, do I feel myself receptive, open, soft with this person? Am I drawn to them, or am I kind of guarded and lean back and like on edge? Like, this is really valuable information. And the way we discern that is by cultivating more capacity to pay attention to ourselves.
Yes. Because what you did
give you all the information
you need. Yes. You are the computer, folks. You are the computer. The information is there for you to download. Stop ignoring it. What Darshana just gave us there is no place you can't do this exercise.
Correct.
Except maybe driving in your car. Just maybe.
I mean, and even that you could. Just be careful.
Yeah, you can catch a smell of something, but you can sit in your living room, you can lay in your bed, you can sit in your office and take just a few minutes. And what it's going to do is help you get grounded and know these are things that I like. There are colors that I'm drawn to. There are smells that make me almost crazy. There is a feeling of things that I like on my skin, and I need to buy more, because when you start making those small steps, it gets easier when things get a little bit bigger and maybe there's more on the line. And if you can say, and you know what, these are 3 things I don't like and I never want around me. I hate this smell. I don't like the way this feels on my skin. And this particular sound makes me want to plug my ears with concrete. And if you know, and you have to be okay with that, because my mother used to do this. She said, this is an example of how different we can be as men and women. She said, if a man sees a woman coming toward him on the street and he looks at her and he goes, she looks really nice, but they get closer and he's like, yeah, but not my type. He'll nod and greet her and they keep walking. She said, women see a guy coming toward him, he looks nice, and they get closer, nah, not my type. Oh, but he's probably a nice person. But if he asks me out, I'll
Again, when someone shows you who they are, or when your inner sense tells you, but you know what? All of the joking aside, what we're pointing to here is that most of us have built up a ton of lived experience distrusting ourselves, and overriding our intuitive guidance. Yes. So a lot of times we talk about intuition and people gesture to their third eye, but I want you to consider your gut. I want you to consider your pelvis, your creative center, like when you are dropped down into your body and you're really sensing, listening, perceiving with all of your faculties, the knowledge is here. So for many of us, it's building self-trust. It is creating new self-talk. Like, so really, how do we talk to ourselves, about our experience? And then it's getting into these embodied exercises, practices, and opportunities to feel from the inside out a whole new paradigm of possibility that, again, like it is going to change your intimate life, hands down, but it's also going to change your life, period, whole life, because you will move in the world differently. Your confidence, your clarity, the love that you feel for yourself, the self-honoring, that's what you bring with you into all those other contexts. And especially for those who have come through, whether your relationship of past was a deeply challenging one, or simply it's just like, okay, we moved in different directions, like whatever the information or whatever the particulars of that, we're all, if you're listening to this, if you're like post-divorce, like building up your confidence does really matter here.
Yes.
Building up your intimacy really, really matters here, right? And so
and this is the perfect time to do it. This is the perfect time to do it. If you're single right now, you've come out of a relationship and you're struggling with your confidence, with your self-trust. Your self-talk has been, and this is a great time to start with an exercise like this and start growing yourself and learn to trust yourself again. Yep. Because I just think trust, well, it's the foundation for so much of what we do. Would you just quickly, I'm not going to keep you on here much longer, but would you tell about your erotic wholeness guide? Tell what that is.
Yeah.
And
so
what kind of transformation and who is it for?
Sure. I've been alluding to bits and pieces of it, but so I have the immense pleasure of getting to deep dive with women who are all about learning from the inside out these very things that we're talking about. If the idea of like the sense inventory like piqued your interest, like, honey, that's the tip of the iceberg. And so what I do that's very, very unique in the world is I bring my expertise as a trauma therapist and as a sexological body worker, which is a thing most people have not heard of, and that's fine.
Right. I told them to get a pen when we started. I told them, get a pen. You're going to need to write some words down.
Right. So those are the two primary modalities that I'm bringing. There's a lot of other stuff in the mix, but what we get to do is a very body-based progressive exploration where I get hands-on and hands-in with my clients. Yes, you heard that right. I am, in a certain context, known as a professional pussy stroker. You heard that here. and
my people just went,
what? Jaw drop? Did she just say that? She said it, she does it. I have had the tremendous honor for over a decade of guiding women into some of the most vulnerable, intimate, tender terrain of their lives, holding beautiful space so that you get to know yourself in a really, really safe, permissive, well-held container. So that instead of looking to your partner, future partner or somebody else, like to be your therapist in this arena, you actually get to have experiences of learning yourself in a really generative way, in a very gentle way. And most of my clients come to see me from all different parts of the country and even the world. So I happen to be based in Oakland, California. But
I was going to ask tell people where
I'm in Oakland, California, and I have literally had people fly from all over the globe to come and spend some time diving into this terrain with me. So wherever you are, if this is resonating and you're like, I need this, sign me up. Let's talk. Let's talk about particulars.
You will see her website. Darshana's website will be in the notes here for the podcast, so you'll be able to click on that and get access to her. I knew I was going to love this episode. I knew it. We met at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember what room we were in, but I told Darshana, I said, you stood up and introduced yourself, and I was like, I need to interview her. And it's because decades ago, I remember watching an episode of Oprah, because it's always got to be an episode of Oprah. That's where we saw everything after Dr. Phil. But she had a sex therapist on. And I remember her basically shocking the audience because she said something like, your teenage daughter should know how her body works. And the mothers were like, oh my gosh, what are you saying? And she says, I'm saying your teenage daughter should know how her body works. And I remember thinking that is one of the most sensible things I have ever heard, because we send girls off to college. We went off to college. We knew nothing about our bodies. And the first time, whether it was high school or college or your honeymoon, the first time you had an orgasm, if you were lucky enough to have one, you thought that this guy just made magic happen. And the whole world revolved around the magic that he made happen. And you didn't know that this is just what your body does. And you could do it to and for yourself. And you would have enough education and wherewithal and knowledge about you to be able to guide the next person to do it even better and faster or slower or however you want it. And I just thought we are missing the mark with our young people. But then it dawned on me, we're missing the mark with our older people too. And so that's why when I met you, I was like, and I had remembered, I had seen Sex, Love, and Goop. I had watched the episode, and I want to say there was another show that had a whole series that I remember watching.
There's 6 episodes of Sex, Love, and Goop. And
so I remember seeing that. And it's like, I want people to get over the fear or the shame or whatever it is. And everybody won't. I get it. It's not, everybody's not going to. But if you can open your mind up and open yourself up to understand, you know what, this is an area where I struggle.
Yeah. And it's okay. And you don't have to feel shamed about the struggle. You're not, you don't have to be alone with it. And really, like, what I want you to know, like, yes, we all deserve to know about our bodies, and more, you deserve to understand the anatomy of your pleasure.
I love that.
To know more than just that ridiculous reproduction. I mean, there's value in reproduction. Okay, I'm not saying there's not value.
There is value in reproducing.
I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to make any babies at this point in time.
If I used to joke with my friends, if you find out I'm pregnant, Jesus came back the same way twice.
There you go. So
because it's just
reproductive anatomy is not what women in their middle years are interested in.
Thinking about. No.
Arousal and of pleasure, dynamics of consent, and really creating deeply intimate, high integrity relational dynamics. That's what I can guide you in. So if you
Yes.
want that, you've come to the right place,
And
my darling.
I brought you a gift, and you can all thank me later or now. I don't
And
care.
they shall. And they shall.
Yes. So
And
I thank you. I want to just, before we wrap up, as you look to the future, do you see a next evolution in the work that you do? Like what do you think is coming down the pike with what you're doing?
It's a very timely question, given where we met one another. Yeah, I mean, I have had the good fortune of getting to do this work in private practice, like I said, for a decade now, and have had my hands on and in so many incredible people. And the growth is in actually beginning to speak and teach and do things at a wider scale beyond just my private practice. So, there are many people, I want everybody to have the knowledge and the information that I'm walking around with, even if I can't put my hands on everybody. So the growth is going to be in creating pathways for that to happen. And it's a really exciting prospect.
Excellent. Well, I will definitely be staying in touch and following you, and hopefully other people that want to learn more and do more and be more of their best selves will also be reaching out to get in touch with you. And just thank you for coming on. Everybody, I know you enjoyed this show. Put it in the comments what you got out of today's episode. Even if it was a little scary, it might tap into some vulnerabilities you've been trying to avoid, but go ahead and share some comments of what did you learn today? Thank you. Look, this is the Joy Act. I will be here again with you next week. And in the meantime, I want you to go out and just act in joy, people. Act in joy.